Love stories are supposed to end in happily ever afters, but what happens when the bride carries a past darker than anyone could imagine? This is a chilling tale of Nancy, a newlywed who thought she had finally found true love, only to be hunted down by a vengeful ex-lover she once deceived. A tropical honeymoon in Greece turns into a deadly game of secrets, betrayal, and survival. Will Nancy's past destroy her marriage, or will she find a way to silence the ghosts that refuse to let her go? Nancy was stunning, intelligent, and charming, but behind her smile was a secret career. She was a professional scammer. For years, she preyed on wealthy men, weaving promises of love, marriage, and forever only to vanish once their bank accounts were drained. Before she became Mrs. Nancy Carter, she was known by many names. Men knew her as sweetheart, darling, even fiancée, but she was never theirs. For years, Nancy survived by weaving illusions. Men fell at her feet, not realizing they were stepping into a carefully laid trap. She took their money, their trust, their futures, and then disappeared. Nancy had a gift. She could make men believe anything. To believe they were special. To believe they were her soulmate and she loved them. And most importantly, to believe she would marry them. Her method was always the same. She would meet them in upscale lounges, or through dating apps tailored for professionals. She'd listen to their dreams, their insecurities, and reflect back exactly what they wanted to hear. Nancy's voice was always soft and coercing. "I see a future with you. I've never felt this way before," she says. And one by one, they fell and they lost everything. Jewelry, cash transfers, property titles, luxury cars. Nancy would disappear right after securing their trust. But the most devastating con of all was Percy Morgan. Percy wasn't like the others. He was sensitive, deeply romantic, the kind of man who still wrote love letters on paper. An heir to a small fortune, Percy had inherited his late parents' estate. When he met Nancy, he thought it was fate. She promised him forever. She painted pictures of a life they would build. A house by the ocean, children with his mother's eyes, holidays in Paris. And Percy signed over assets to their joint future. He trusted her with everything. But Nancy left him with nothing but a broken heart and empty accounts. To Percy, it wasn't just theft. It was a betrayal of the deepest kind. Percy wondered how someone who claimed to love him so deeply could hurt him so much and vanish with his inheritance. Was the love genuine, or was it only for his money? He couldn't move on or date anymore because of betrayal. Percy felt used, bitter, and betrayed by the one person who swore to love him forever. From that day, revenge became his only purpose, and he swore to find her or at least save another man from falling victim. Nancy, however, moved on like nothing happened, leaving behind her a trail of broken hearts across towns and countries. But everything changed when Nancy met Frank. Frank was different. A successful architect from Miami. Practical, steady, everything Nancy wasn't. He had spent years building his landscape business, living a quiet life. When Nancy met Frank, she thought it would be just another con, another man to charm, another account to drain. But something shifted. Frank didn't shower her with reckless gifts. He didn't try to buy her love. Instead, he gave her something she wasn't used to: patience, kindness. A walk in the park today, date night in the library another day. Against her own instincts, Nancy began to fall. For the first time, she wasn't pretending. Their courtship was short but intense. Within a year, Frank proposed. On a warm evening under the Miami skyline, Nancy said yes. And for the first time in her life, she really meant it. Against all odds, she abandoned her old schemes and became the blushing bride. Their wedding was a fairy tale, a beautiful beach ceremony in Miami, waves crashing as they exchanged vows. But little did Nancy know, someone was watching. Percy Morgan had tracked Nancy down with a private investigator. He had spent years searching, following every lead, every whisper. When he learned she was marrying another man, his rage turned into obsession. The wedding was nothing short of breathtaking. A scene pulled straight from it. Picture this: a golden sun sinking into horizon, casting a warm, amber glow over the sandy shores of Miami's coastline. The ocean stretched endlessly before the intimate gathering, its gentle waves rolling in, their soft rhythm blending with the soulful notes of a string quartet playing a heartfelt playlist of classic love songs. The air was thick with the scent of salt and blooming jasmine, and fairy lights twinkled in the palm trees, swaying lightly in the evening breeze. It was a kind of setting that made you believe in love's magic, the kind of moment where promises felt eternal. Nancy, the bride, was a vision at the center of it all. Her white gown shimmered under the fading light, its delicate lace trailing behind her like whispers of a fairy tale. Her smile was radiant, her eyes sparkling with a mix of joy and nervous excitement as she walked down the aisle, her arm linked with her father's. Every guest's gaze followed her, captivated by her elegance, her grace, her warmth. To them, she was perfection, a woman who seemed to embody everything a bride should be. Frank's family, especially, adored her. His mother dabbed tears from her eyes, whispering to everyone how Nancy was the daughter she'd always dreamed of welcoming into the family. His siblings marveled at how attentive she was, always knowing the right thing to say, always ready with a kind gesture. To them, Nancy was Frank's perfect match, the woman who completed their family. As Nancy took her place beside Frank, her groom, she felt her heart swell. Frank, with his easy smile and steady hands, looked at her like she was his entire world. As they exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other through all of life's uncertainties, Nancy let herself believe this was her new beginning. She believed her past, though messy, complicated and shadowed by mistakes, was finally behind her. She had buried it deep, locked it away in a corner of her mind she swore never to revisit. Her past was gone, a relic of a life she no longer recognized. The lies, the betrayals, the choices she'd made in her reckless youth. They couldn't touch her here, not in this perfect moment. Frank kissed her and slipped the ring onto her finger. Nancy told herself the slate was clean. She was free, but freedom, as Nancy would soon learn, is a fragile thing when the past refuses to stay buried. Thousands of miles away, in a dimly lit apartment cluttered with empty coffee cups and crumpled papers, Percy Morgan sat hunched over his laptop. His fingers froze on the keyboard as he stumbled across an email that stopped his heart. Attached to it a wedding album, sent by his private investigator. There she was, Nancy, his Nancy, draped in white, her smile as dazzling as ever, her arm wrapped around a man Percy didn't recognize. The caption gushed about the perfect day and the beautiful couple. Percy's hands trembled, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of his desk. Rage surged through him, a molten fire that burned away the years of silence and distance. He scrolled through the images, each one a fresh wound. Nancy laughing with her new husband, Nancy cutting a cake adorned with delicate sugar flowers, Nancy dancing under a canopy of stars. Every photo was a reminder of what she'd taken from him, of the trust she'd shattered. Percy wasn't just any ex. He wasn't a fleeting fling or a casual heartbreak. He had been Nancy's everything once, a man who had loved her fiercely, blindly, despite the warning signs. Their relationship had been a whirlwind, intense and all-consuming, built on late-night confessions and promises neither of them fully understood. But Nancy had played him, weaving a web of lies that left Percy broken when she walked away. She'd taken more than his heart. She'd taken his trust, his pride, and a piece of his soul when she vanished from his life after clearing his account. Percy had spent years piecing himself back together, haunted by questions he couldn't answer. Now, seeing her so happy, so carefree with another man, it was more than he could bear. As he watched the photos with guests toasting to the couple's future, Percy's mind was already racing. He wasn't the same man Nancy had left behind. The years had hardened him, turned his pain into something sharper, something dangerous. He began to dig, scouring the internet for details about Nancy's new life. He found her husband's name, Frank, a successful architect with a warm smile and a seemingly perfect life. He found their honeymoon plans, pieced together from careless social media posts, a romantic getaway to the sun-soaked islands of Greece, where they'd be basking in the beauty of Santorini's cliffs and turquoise waters. Percy's lips curled into a bitter smile. Nancy thought she could outrun her past after 5 years, but he was about to prove her wrong. The honeymoon was supposed to be Nancy and Frank's paradise, a time to revel in their love, to build memories that would carry them through a lifetime together. But as they arrived in Greece, with its postcard-perfect views and warm Mediterranean breezes, something began to feel off. A cryptic note slipped under their hotel room door, a shadow lingering just out of sight in a crowded market. A chilling phone call with no one on the other end. Nancy tried to brush it off, to convince herself it was nothing, but deep down, she knew her past wasn't gone. It was here, watching, waiting. Who could it be? Was it Jonathan, Alexander, William, or was it Jesse? It couldn't be Alexander. He just got married recently. William joined the army after her betrayal. Who could it be? She wondered. Certainly, it couldn't be Percy. Percy loves her, and even cried when she left him. He can't hurt her. So she thought. What began as a celebration of love quickly spiraled into her nightmare. Nancy's perfect new life was unraveling, thread by thread. Frank, still blissfully unaware of his bride's secrets, noticed her growing unease but chalked it up to the stress of travel. Could Nancy find the courage to tell him the truth about her past, about the lies, about the woman she used to be? Or would she try to face her past alone, risking everything to keep it buried? As the Grecian sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the island, Nancy's honeymoon became a desperate fight for survival. Every step she took drew her deeper into a maze of deception and danger, where love and trust hung in the balance. Would she outsmart the men who knew her darkest secrets, or would it destroy the life she'd fought so hard to build? This is a story of love pushed to its limits, of a woman tormented by the choices she thought she left behind, and a past that clings to her like a shadow that won't fade. Can love survive the crushing weight of secrets, or is some past too dangerous to remain hidden? Nancy stood at the edge of her new life, believing her honeymoon in Greece would be the perfect capstone to a wedding that had already felt like a dream come true. The ceremony in Miami had been nothing short of magical. Golden sands underfoot, the ocean shimmering under a setting sun, and the soft crash of waves mingling with the music of their love. She walked down the aisle, her heart swelling with hope, convinced that her past was buried for good. Frank, her gentle and adoring husband, saw her as a soulmate, and his family embraced her as one of their own, charmed by her grace and warmth. To them, Nancy was flawless, the bride who could do no wrong. But beneath her radiant smile lay secrets she'd spent years running from. Secrets tied to the person she was in the past. The honeymoon was supposed to be their paradise, a blissful escape to the sun-drenched islands of Santorini. Nancy had pictured it all, strolling hand in hand with Frank along whitewashed streets, the dazzling blue waters of the Aegean sparkling below, and sipping wine as the sun painted the sky in hues of pink and orange. To Frank, it was everything he dreamed of, a romantic gateway where their love could deepen, untouched by the world's chaos. They laughed over candlelit dinners, took boat rides under the golden sun, and lost themselves in the beauty of the island's cliffs and cobblestone paths. For a moment, Nancy let herself believe she was free, that the lies and betrayals of her past were locked away forever. But Percy was already there, waiting in the shadows, his heart burning with a rage that had festered for years. He wasn't just there to confront her. He wasn't looking for closure or apologies. Percy had come to expose her, to tear down the perfect life she built with Frank and make sure her new husband knew exactly who he'd married. To Percy, Nancy wasn't the blushing bride or the loving wife. She was a woman who deceived him, broken his trust, and vanished without a trace, leaving him to pick up the pieces of his shattered heart. Now he'd found her, he was determined to make her pay. At first, everything seemed perfect. Nancy and Frank wandered through Santorini's charming streets, their fingers intertwined, their laughter echoing off the white walls adorned with vibrant bougainvillea. They sailed across the caldera, the sun warming their faces as they marveled at the island's beauty. Frank was blissfully unaware, his heart full of love and trust, seeing nothing but the woman he'd vowed to spend his life with. But Nancy couldn't shake the creeping dread that settled in her chest. Every corner they turned, every shadow that flickered in the evening light, felt like a pair of eyes watching her, waiting for her to slip. She tried to dismiss it as paranoia, telling herself it was just the stress of the wedding or the exhaustion of travel. But deep down, she knew better. Then came the first sign, subtle but chilling. A note slipped under the door of their quaint hotel room, while they slept. No signature, no explanation, just 5 words scrawled in sharp, deliberate handwriting. Did you tell him yet? Nancy's blood ran cold as she read it, her hands trembling so violently she nearly dropped the paper. She didn't need a name to know who'd sent it. His writing was unforgettable. Percy's presence was like a ghost, seeping into her perfect world, threatening to unravel everything. She had the note from Frank, shoving it into her bag before he could see. But the words burned in her mind. Percy wasn't just watching, he was taunting her, pulling her back into the darkness she'd fought so hard to escape. That evening, as Frank slept soundly in their hotel bed, lulled by the gentle hum of the sea outside, Nancy made a choice. She couldn't ignore Percy any longer. If she didn't face him, he'd keep coming closer, tightening the noose around her new life, slipping out into the cool night air, her heart pounding. She followed a gut feeling to the cliffs overlooking the caldera. The moon hung low, casting a silver glow over the jagged rocks and endless sea below. And there he was, Percy, standing alone, his silhouette stark against the night sky. His face, once so familiar, was now twisted with a rage that made her stomach churn. His eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, Nancy knew this wasn't just a confrontation. It was the beginning of a dangerous game. Years ago, Nancy and Percy had been inseparable, caught in a passionate but toxic relationship fueled by her youthful recklessness. She'd played with his heart, weaving lies to get what she wanted, then disappeared when she got all she wanted from him, his inheritance. She'd left him broken, humiliated, and obsessed with the betrayal. Now, standing on that cliff, Percy wasn't the man she remembered. Time had sharpened his pain into something colder, something calculated. He didn't just want answers. He wanted accountability, or he would destroy the life she'd built. "Did you think you could run forever, Nancy?" he asked. "Did you think you could ruin my life and just play house with him?" "Percy, please, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. I love him. He's different. I'm not the same person anymore." "Why now, Percy?" she wailed. "I thought you'd moved on, that you'd forgotten about me." "How could I forget or even forgive you?" Percy replied. "When you built our relationship on lies. Are you even sure you love him? Or you're in love with his money? I need you to come clean with your new husband," he continued, "or you pay back my inheritance." Nancy begged him to leave them alone. But Percy wasn't interested in mercy. He wanted the truth. He gave her 2 days. If she didn't confess, he would. "You'll tell him the truth, or I will," Percy warned, walking away. As the days passed, the signs grew bolder. A photo of Nancy from years ago, one she thought she destroyed, was left on their breakfast table. A whispered voice in a crowded market, calling her by her name. Each move was a reminder that Percy knew her secrets, and he was ready to use them. Nancy's fear grew, but so did her determination. She couldn't let Frank find out, not like this. She loved him too much to lose him to her past mistakes. But could she outsmart Percy, a man driven by years of pent-up anger? Or would she have confessed everything to Frank, risking the love they built? The honeymoon, once a symbol of their new beginning, became a battleground. Every sunset, every boat ride, every quiet moment was tainted by Percy's presence, lurking just out of sight. Nancy's perfect love story was unraveling, and she was running out of time to save it. Would she find a way to silence the ghost of her past? Or would Percy's vengeance strip away everything she held dear? The next 2 days were torture. By day, she played the role of the perfect bride, laughing with Frank, sipping wine, walking the cobblestone streets of Santorini. By night, her mind raced. Could she confess? Could she risk losing Frank? Every smile felt fake. Every kiss felt like a lie. And Frank finally began to notice. "Nancy, is everything okay?" He asked. "You've been distant." Nancy forced a smile, just tired. That's all. But the cracks were showing. Nancy felt trapped. If she told Frank, her marriage would crumble before it even began. If she didn't, Percy would do it for her. Every moment with Frank became a performance. Smiles at dinner, laughter during tours, stolen kisses while Nancy's heart raced, knowing the clock was ticking. Then came Percy's second message, slid into her purse when she wasn't looking. Midnight, the pier, or he finds out everything. At midnight, Nancy went to the pier after waiting for Frank to fall asleep. The pier was empty, the waves crashing violently beneath. Percy was already there, waiting. "It's quite simple, Nancy. Either you come back to me, or I'll destroy your new life," said Percy. "You don't love me, Percy. You love control," Nancy replied in a shaky voice. "You love the fantasy. I sold you. But I'm done. I won't let you take this from me." Percy grabbed her arm, his grip iron tight. Nancy struggled, panic rising. And then they heard footsteps. It was Frank. He had followed her. Frank's eyes were filled with confusion, and he asked Nancy, "What is going on? Who is this man?" Nancy froze. This was it. The moment everything would come crashing down. Percy smirked, ready to expose her. But Nancy made a choice. She turned to Frank, tears streaming down her face. "He's an ex, Frank. A mistake from my past who won't let me go. He's trying to destroy us," she continued. "Please, you have to believe me." Frank's jaw tightened. He didn't know who to trust. But in that moment, love won. He pulled Nancy close, glaring at Percy. "Stay away from my wife, or you'll regret it," Frank warned. "Stay away?" Percy asked. "Fine, but ask yourself this. Why would she sneak out to meet me at midnight, in secret? You think you know her, but you don't. One day, the truth will cut deeper than any betrayal you've ever known." Percy walks away, leaving Frank staring at Nancy, his trust shaken, suspicion creeping in. Nancy smiled and kissed Frank's cheek, relief flooding her. But inside, she knew the truth. Percy wasn't gone. For now, her secret was safe. Her past wasn't buried. It was alive, breathing, watching, because secrets don't die. They wait, and when they resurface, they destroy everything. This is not just a story of love. It is a story of lies woven so tightly they choked the very thing they were meant to protect. A story of a woman haunted by choices she thought she could outrun, and of a past that refuses to stay silent. It dares to ask, can love survive the weight of deception? Or are some ghosts too relentless, too merciless, to ever be banished? For Nancy, the fight to protect her marriage has only just begun. And as the shadows close in, one truth becomes certain. Every secret comes with a price. And sooner or later, she will have to pay. Thanks for watching, and please click on the notification button to subscribe to the channel.